Simply Sports. Episode number 80, ladies and gentlemen, of this wild and crazy adventure. My name is Andy Williams. Thank you once again for tuning in. September the 18th, 2019. We are officially 3 days away from fall. Wow, that's pretty incredible that we're 3 days away from fall. And also, too, before I forget, a happy birthday in 2 days goes out to my little sister, Megan. Megan is turning 26, so happy birthday to my little sister, Megan Williams. And speaking of Megan Williams, she is the head volleyball coach over at Housatonic. And she has a very young and upcoming team. She had 2 games this past week. First game against Northwestern. A very, very spirited contest against a very good Northwestern team, in which they won the first set, dropped a heartbreaker of a second set, and then pretty much ran out of gas the rest of the way. They lost that match 3-1. And then last night at Terryville had a bad night and lost 3-0. So they start the season out 0-2. They have 2 home games coming up, one tomorrow and one, ironically enough, on her birthday. So good luck to not just my sister Megan, but to the entire Housatonic girls volleyball team, as well as the Housatonic football team, who has a game upcoming Friday night against Cheney Tech after they came off an opening day loss at home against Platt Tech 32-0. So we wish them the best of luck. The Housatonic girls soccer team won 6-0 over Terryville. And that was the only game that they played this week, I believe, on their schedule, on their slate. They have another one coming up, I believe, Thursday or Friday. And then the boys soccer team split their first 2 contests, a win 2-0 and then a loss to Terryville as well. So good luck to all Housatonic athletics in the upcoming week to come. If you want to get a hold of me on the live line, 860-824-4200, 860-824-4200. I said on Facebook about an hour or so ago that this show was going to be on fire. There are going to be debatable topics up in the air. Folks, I want to hear from you. I do. Because we're going to have topics coming up which I know you're going to want to chime in about. Especially the ones that have to do with the NFL and a certain New York Giants quarterback that is no longer the starter there. So I'm going to run quickly through Major League Baseball real quick. In the American League, the wild card is the only thing that's not decided yet. Oakland holds a 2-game lead in the first wild card. And in the second wild card, a spot in which nobody wants, apparently, Tampa Bay and Cleveland. Tampa Bay holds a half-game lead over the Cleveland Indians in that department. With 10 games to go, I don't know who to trust. I want to trust the Indians with their pitching and their hitting because they seem to be a more well-rounded team, but I don't know what I'm going to get out of them. And are they going to beat the A's? I have no idea. And either one of those teams, they're going to lose to Oakland anyway because Oakland is a much more well-rounded team. And if I'm the Yankees, I might want to pull back a little bit. Now, why would I say that? Well, if I'm the Yankees, I wouldn't want the 1 seed to take on Oakland or Tampa or Cleveland, because I don't know what I'm going to get out of them. You know what you're going to get out of Minnesota. And every time the Yankees make a deep run to the World Series, if you've noticed in the past, they've always beat the Twins in the divisional round. Go ahead, look at it in the past history. You can't argue science. In the National League, half of it is settled, but now, all of a sudden, what we thought was decided with the Central is not decided. And what we thought would be not just the first wild card, but now the second wild card is not decided. In the NL Central, St. Louis holds just a mere 2-game lead over both Chicago and Milwaukee. Now, Chicago and Milwaukee, they hold a tie in the second wild card. But yet they're only a game and a half back for the first wild card for Washington. And Washington has kind of been playing some very passive-aggressive baseball as of late. 500 ball, not looking good. And you can't have that with 10 games to go in the season. Does anybody want the wild card? The Mets pretty much have to win out. They got to win their last 10 or 11 games and get help. So they're pretty well finished. Don't rule out the Phillies quite yet, even though they're 4 games back. They have a very big 5-game series coming up with the Nationals. And if they could take 4 out of 5 or even sweep the 5-game series, you can't rule them out. So, something to look forward to here in the last week and a half of the season. Real quick also, because somebody gave me a hard time about it, Martin Truex won the Monster Cup Energy race this past week. And Kyle Busch went on his typical tirade after somebody claimed to have gotten in the back of him and wrecked him. And this is just typical Monster Cup Energy now. Somebody gets in the back of you, spins you out, crashes you, and then they cry and whine about it to the media. Not like the old days when Dale Earnhardt and Jeff Gordon, Sterling Marlin, Dale Jarrett, excuse me. Take my wrestling pun there. And they raced hard, then there were no excuses there. So, congratulations to Martin Truex. Actually, you know what? I will go to wrestling real quick as well, as we talk about Jeff Jarrett. But Jeff Jarrett's not wrestling here. Clash of Champions happened this past weekend on the pay-per-view. And no real big surprises. You knew both the tag team champions were going to lose. You knew that was coming. However, at the end, and you knew Seth Rollins was going to retain the title somehow, some way, but you noticed something at the end. The fans turned on Seth Rollins. They turned on their champion. Much like the fans turned on John Cena when he was holding the title for a long time, they have turned on Seth Rollins. And now they are backing the returning Bray Wyatt, who is now The Fiend. And everybody is excited about Bray Wyatt as they get ready for Hell in a Cell on October the 20th. Or somewhere, I think, yeah, October 20th. And also the return of Brock Lesnar to SmackDown, as he's going to challenge for the WWE Championship against Kofi Kingston on SmackDown's first show on the Fox network, which should be extremely interesting. Okay, now that we got all the other sports out of the way, now for the next 20 minutes we are going to focus in on football. And again, if you want to call in, 860-824-4200, 860-824-4200. College football. Okay. I had a better week. I had a much better week. Had a winning record this week. We were 3-2. Thanks to a miracle touchdown by Florida at the end, which gave a lot of teams a bad beat. Not me. That was a good win. So right now we enter week 4 with 6 wins and 9 losses. As I give you my Power 5. None of the big teams lost. Alabama dominated over South Carolina. Whoops. So much for Alabama getting upset in Columbia. Clemson took care of business at Syracuse. Georgia won. And now we have a big matchup coming up this week in college football. Georgia versus Notre Dame. Between the hedges. Can Georgia finally beat a top 10 team out of conference? I think they will. But I do think that the 14 points that they're giving Notre Dame is a little too much. And it smells. So I'm going to take Notre Dame. I will take Notre Dame with the points. I'll think Georgia's going to win, but it's going to be a lot closer than a lot of people think. I think Georgia wins by a touchdown. Air Force, who's undefeated, takes on Boise State up on the blue turf. Boise is giving 8.5 to Air Force. I'm going to take Boise State. You got to take Boise State at home. It's on the blue turf. It's a no-brainer. LSU traveling to Vanderbilt. LSU giving Vanderbilt 24 points. I think they cover that pretty comfortably. Auburn traveling to the 12th man to take on A&M. Auburn is getting 3.5. I'm going to take Auburn in this, and I'm actually going to take Auburn outright in this game. I think War Eagle is strong and very, very underrated. And I just don't think A&M has enough power to take down Auburn in this game. Take Auburn with the points. Oklahoma State going to Austin to take on Texas. Texas giving 6 points. I think Texas wins this game comfortably. I think it's going to be high scoring, but I think Texas is going to win by 10. So those are my Power 5 for the week. Big doings in the NFL. Very, very, very big. We start with what we took out of week 2. Well, first of all, I didn't have a good week. I was 10-6 in picking my games this week. So that improves me to 22-9-1, which puts me at a 68.8% winning percentage. And what we found out after 2 weeks, just 2 weeks, that there are only 5 good teams in the NFL right now as we speak. There's only 5. First of all, I think that the AFC is pretty much over. The AFC comes down to either New England or Kansas City, and just where they're going to play the AFC Championship. In the NFC, you have Dallas, you have the Rams, and then you have the Green Bay Packers as well. I think Green Bay's defense is really stepped up. I like what Aaron Rodgers is doing. He's doing what he always does. But their defense has stepped up by leaps and bounds. They've only given up 19 points through the season so far. And I think by the time the weather starts to get a little colder and the systems start falling into place, I think Aaron Rodgers and the new coach are really going to click. And that could be bad news for a lot of teams and good news for all you cheeseheads out there. There was another thing that we took out of this week, is that the strong 2004 quarterback class is now injured, and now their careers are pretty much over. What do I mean by that? Well, let's start with Ben Roethlisberger. Ben Roethlisberger tore his UCL, and he's out for the year. Ben Roethlisberger is pushing close to 40 years old. Now, he claims he's going to come back next year stronger and better than ever. But isn't this the same Ben Roethlisberger that wanted to retire the last 2 years? I find that extremely hard to believe, coming from a guy who wants to retire, and a guy who now says he wants to come back stronger and better than ever. That doesn't make sense to me. Drew Brees is going to have thumb surgery. He's out the next 6 games. And when he saw the injury, it was really bad. And then when he tried to pick up a football, he couldn't even lift it. Now, the next 6 games for the Saints, they could go 3-3. Teddy Bridgewater, their backup, is a very capable backup. He's been a starter in the NFL, and I think that they could go 3-3 with the schedule that they have. And if they can hover right around 500, and then Drew Brees coming back for the second half, I think the Saints will be okay. But again, Drew Brees is 40. If they make the playoffs this year, he's going to be 41. And this was on his throwing hand. I don't like his chances. Does he play the second half of the season? Does he play another season? And now Eli Manning. It is official. Eli Manning is not the starter of the New York Giants. People are saying, well, Eli Manning should have played out the last part of the season. We weren't going to do anything the part of the season. No. You're 0-2. You've played 2 games. That's it. It's not time to jump ship yet. Now, if it were 6 games, I would say maybe, or even after the bye week, I would say, okay, get the young kid in there. He could start the rest of the games. But this seems a little sudden to me. Now, granted, the Giants did go 8 since 2016, since they got on the boat and partied on that yacht. The Giants are 8-27. Eli Manning is a sub-500 quarterback. And it's not even close since the last Super Bowl that he won. Now, is Eli Manning a Hall of Famer? Absolutely. I think so. I know he doesn't have the arm strength. I know he doesn't have the parts or anything, the parts around him. Does he? He's got Saquon Barkley, yes, but Saquon Barkley's got to touch the ball more than the 15, 20 times that you're giving him. It's unacceptable. Now, I understand you're going to give this kid a chance against a Tampa Bay team that's not that good. But if you were going to do it at the start of the year, do it after the bye week or during the bye week, or let Eli play out the rest of the season. Because now there's no turning back. And if you turn back, you're going to look awfully foolish again. And the Giants have looked pretty foolish since 2012. They really have. And like I said, since they got on that boat and partied, they're 8-27. And that's not good. Now, these three quarterbacks from the 2004 class, these three great quarterbacks are Hall of Famers. They rank in the top 7 in passing of all time. But 15 years in the league, it's time to move on. The Giants have already taken that first step. Now they've taken a second step. The Saints are going to have to do the same with Drew Brees. Because ever since Thanksgiving, the Saints are 20th in offense. They barely average 20 points a game. And I think the Saints have to start looking to the future. Same with the Pittsburgh Steelers. They got rid of Antonio Brown. Le'Veon Bell gone. Ben Roethlisberger hurt. Now you have Mason Rudolph. Is he the future? They have a good young running back at James Conner. A good young wide receiver, Juju Smith-Schuster. The future needs to start happening now. I know Tom Brady's the exception to the rule. He's 42 years old and looks like unfortunately, he's going to be playing until he's 45. But these quarterbacks that just keep getting beat up, like Manning, like Brees, like Big Ben, it's time to look forward. It's time to look to the future. And the future, unfortunately, is going to start in week 3. As I alluded to, I was 10-6 in my picks this week, or last week. I hope to do an ounce better this week. We'll start on Thursday night, Tennessee against Jacksonville. Jacksonville's an absolute mess. Jalen Ramsey wants to get traded after just about punching his coach in the face. I don't know what happened on the sidelines. Tennessee, I don't know what to make of them, Dr. Jekyll and Mr. Hyde. I'll take Dr. Jekyll here. I'll take Tennessee beating Jacksonville on the road. Miami traveling to Dallas. Miami is the worst team in the NFL by far. Miami has given up, are you ready for this, in 2 games, in a mere 2 games, 102 points. And they've scored 10. They are an underdog by 21.5 points traveling to Arlington. Dallas wins this game handily. Cincinnati traveling to Buffalo. Is Buffalo really going to be 3-0 at the end of week 3? I think so. But again, who's Buffalo played? They've played the Giants, the Jets, and now Cincinnati. 3 not really good teams. Let's wait and see with Buffalo. But I will take Buffalo to win here. Denver traveling to Green Bay. I think Green Bay's defense does the talking, and they shut down Denver. Green Bay in the win here. 2 teams in which, again, I can't put my finger on it. Atlanta versus Indianapolis. Indianapolis has played an overtime game, a down-to-the-wire game against Tennessee, which they won. And now they come home to take on an Atlanta team who got a huge win on Sunday Night Football against Philly. And they got their butts kicked in Minnesota. I'm going to tentatively take Atlanta in this game, just for the fact that I think Julio Jones can run wild against this Indianapolis defense. Baltimore against Kansas City. Remember what I said about the future? This game. This is the game. 2 future quarterbacks right here. Lamar Jackson, who's 22. Patrick Mahomes, who's 23. This is the future of quarterback right here. But one is a lot better than the other, and that's Patrick Mahomes. Kansas City wins big. Oakland traveling to Minnesota. Oakland's not really that good of a... They're not good of a road team. They're really not. Minnesota wins big. New England at home against the Jets. Anybody watch that Monday night game against Cleveland? That scary injury in which Trevor Siemian's ankle went just ugh. And now you have your third stringer, Nate Folk, going up against Tom Brady. Got to talk about David versus Goliath. Goliath's going to kick David right in the teeth. I got New England winning big here. Detroit taking on Philadelphia. I got Philadelphia bouncing back after that heartbreaking loss in Atlanta. Carolina against Arizona. Cam Newton is hurt. He is hurt. They need to shut Cam Newton down. Arizona, and I believe Kyler Murray will get his first NFL win here. The Daniel Jones era is going to start out not so good in Tampa. He'll be okay. I just don't think that he'll get the win here. Houston traveling to Los Angeles to take on the Chargers. I got the Chargers winning this game. I don't know what to make of Houston. Houston's not good. Deshaun Watson, you don't know if he's going to get killed or complete a 70-yard pass. Pittsburgh traveling to San Francisco. The Mason Rudolph era has begun. San Francisco, they going to be 3-0? I think so. San Francisco on the West Coast beating Pittsburgh. New Orleans traveling to Seattle. They're going to be without Drew Brees. Seattle defense. Russell Wilson, very quiet. Seattle wins that game. The Rams travel to Cleveland, Sunday Night Football. The Rams dominate over Cleveland. And Chicago against Washington on Monday Night Football. Chicago wins big. Thank you very much, ladies and gentlemen, for tuning in to Simply Sports on this September the 18th. Quick happy birthday again to my sister Megan. And make sure you tune in on Facebook 1 o'clock, CATV 6, 7 o'clock, and 11 o'clock. And for Mike Flint, Marshall Miles, and Brian Oler, 1, 4, 3.